and then we'll kick off our session. So this is one that a number of people actually, had asked, like, gosh, could we have a panel with elite runners? And so Trina helped me track down that panel. And obviously there are others that are, associated with the club that could have been invited as well. But tonight we have Kelby and Cassidy and Jesse, and just brief introductions for each one of them. I'm just gonna go down and have them on my sheet. So Kelby is married and has a 9-month-old son. She works in finance, and she's been running since middle school cross country and ran cross country at the University of Evansville. She ran her first marathon in 2015 and has been hooked on that distance since then, right? So you either run your first one and you're hooked, or you run it and never run another one again. She qualified for the Marathon Olympic Trials, which she ran last year while 27 weeks pregnant. I was sharing that with my wife, and she's still trying to figure that out. And currently she's training for her first race postpartum, the Carmel Marathon. So Welcome, Kelby.
Hi, everyone.
And then we have Cassidy Menard, and Cassidy is a master's runner and started running when she was 31 years old after having her daughter and graduating from residency. And she's one of our frontline heroes. She's a physician and specializes in the care of hospitalized patients, including and especially COVID patients in the past year. So thank you. Cassidy played softball growing up and never ran track or cross country. She started running several hours after a colleague asked her if she was pregnant again, and she was not. So, ouch.
There's incentive.
She joined PBT a couple of years later and was such a novice that she had to ask her coach which direction to run around the track. She told me I didn't have to share all this, but I am, because it's so good. She continues to run faster every year and hopes to be a top masters runner in Indiana. She doesn't consider herself an elite runner in the same cadre as Jesse and Kelby, but she tries to perform at a high level to represent those of us in the older age bracket with demanding careers and young children, and perhaps those of us who did not run until later in life. So welcome, Cassidy, and I appreciate that. I didn't start running until I was 40, so I completely appreciate that and get that. And then last but not least, Jesse Davis. Jesse, actually sitting in the runner's form right now that he manages in Broad Ripple. He volunteers while serving on the board for Indy Runners and Back on My Feet, and Back on My Feet's near and dear to my heart. Jesse's run 2 Olympic marathon trials, 2 Ultra World Championships. And Jesse, I don't know, I know it said hoping to run a 100-mile trail race. Are you still hoping to do that, or did you do that? I can't remember.
I have not done 100 miles yet.
Okay.
That's still, it's in, I haven't attempted it either. So it's not like I tried and failed. I haven't got the nerve up to do it yet.
All right, well, we'll commit you to that tonight. Jeff, write that down. That Jesse.
Yeah.
That's a 5-year.
What's that?
Next 5 years.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Jesse's always found inspiration from his grandparents because they've always supported him. So again, welcome, Jesse. And so again, we're informal small group tonight. I had a few questions. If you guys have questions, pop them in the chat or raise your hand. I'm sure these guys are okay with us being informal. But to kick it off, and I'll start with Kelby and try to mix up who I start all these with. But each of you will ask this question. When and how did you realize you were an exceptionally talented runner? I'll start with you, Kelby.
Let's see. So I think just a little bit of background. I started running with my dad. He was a runner. And so he would take me and my twin sisters out and go on little jogs around the YMCA track, like little ducklings. So that's like my first running memory. And then my brother did cross country. So I was like, well, I have to do cross country because he did it. And I thought it was really cool. So that's what I did in middle school. And I was decent. Like I was one of the top on the team for the women. So I knew I had some talent and it came pretty easy to me. And then going into freshman in high school, like I hated running and I wanted nothing to do with it. And I just wanted to play soccer. So I was a huge soccer player. So that was my main focus. And my parents like practically had to make me go out for the track team my freshman year. So it took me, I was like, and I'm only doing 800. I'm not doing any distance events. So that quickly went away when I found out I was better than I thought I was. And just, I think I started liking it more as I figured out I was fairly good at it and I was winning races. And so that intrinsically motivated me to keep on with it. But my first love was still soccer for a long time until senior year of high school. And I figured best shot at doing a sport in college was probably running. So I did cross country my senior year of high school. And then that's kind of where I really started to love it. So.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate the background and the overview. Yeah, I did not want to run either. I played sports in high school, but didn't want any part of running. So
Yeah.
how about yourself, Cassidy?
Well, I was thinking back, like, I wish I had been a high school runner or, had this history with running because I love it so much now. And I felt like it came well, but I remember like in sixth, when you had field day in grade school, I remember winning like the hurdles and the distance event that year, but still like never thinking I was fast enough to run track. Like that seemed like a different person or something. And then in high school, I remember they put Katie Buckley on second base and me at home plate, and we'd race to home and I would win.
Oh.
And I mean, and Katie's my good friend. I say that, we still laugh at it, but I realized like I probably was a pretty fast runner and stole bases and such, but I never like ran a mile or ran just to run. I just didn't think I belonged in that. And I was really short. And I am really short and I have a really high cadence. And I always felt like I looked like a cartoon character or something. So I was very self-conscious about how I looked running when I was little. So I don't know, I guess I had it in there somewhere and it just needed to wait, 20 years to try it.
Awesome, thank you. And Jesse?
Where did you go to high school?
Oh, go ahead, Kathy.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to North Central.
And where did you go, Kelby?
I'm from Frankfurt, so Frankfurt High School.
Okay, just curious. Thanks.
My turn.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. And where did you go to high school?
Yeah, where'd you go?
Bloomington High School South.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm from Bloomington.
Cool.
So yeah, I started running. I played all the sports when I was a kid, and my last year of baseball, and I was pretty garbage at all of them. But my last year that I played baseball when I was 13, our coach timed everybody running to first plate, and he just like took my split and he was like, "Do you run track?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "You should." And so then I got to middle school, and then I joined the track team and I did sprints. So I was like 100, 200 meter guy. We watched this video of Carl Lewis. So I was like all about Carl Lewis. I want to do all his events. So I did the 100, 200, long jumped even, and 4x1. And I went undefeated in the 100 and 200 meter dash and set the school record. And so I was like, I'm pretty good at this. And then I only lost in the 100 and 200. I only lost one time, and it was in the 100 in my 8th grade year. But I'm still actually lifetime undefeated at 200 meter dash, because I stopped running it. I stopped running it after middle school.
Yeah, don't run it again.
Yeah, no, I won't challenge you by the 200. So then in high school, I bumped up to more mid distance and started running the 800. And my team, my sophomore year, actually, we won state, and I was on that team, and we set the state record. So that was a great experience. And that obviously was a time where I felt like, oh, wow, I got a chance to do this pretty seriously. And so I ran the 800 mostly. And then my last season, my senior season, I ran the mile, and I made the state in the mile, and didn't have the best race, but that was because I wasn't used to having too much competition, and I went out way too hard, but I learned my lesson. And then got a college scholarship and ran in college. And after that, I was mainly at 800 and steeplechaser in college. And then I hooked up with Matt right after college, and he was just like, there's no real future in the track, so not when you're out of college. So we started running marathons, and then one thing led to another, and I just kept going up in distance from 100 meter dash to ultra marathon. So who would have known? I would have never thought I would run that far when I started. So
No, that's cool. I appreciate you sharing that because I think a lot of people might not assume that, hey, a sprinter, or someone like you that would start out sprinting, right? Like, oh, he's a
Yeah.
long distance runner. So that's a pretty cool story.
Yeah. And I only lost one time in the long jump too. So I didn't do that in high school either.
Some of us here are old enough to remember watching Carl Lewis live. We didn't have to watch tapes of him. We actually saw him.
Yeah. Oh, I watched him live too.
Okay.
But he had a track and field tape for like for new track athletes, and they put it in the first day of practice, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy's awesome. And then I saw him then his last Olympics.
Oh, that's
compete.
Great.
So it was pretty cool.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Next question related to that one, and Cassidy, I'll start with you. Did your success impact your relationship with the sports? Like once you realized, hey, I am pretty good at this. How did it impact your relationship, in what way?
Yeah, I mean, again, I started running at this like weird time in my life where I had been in school forever and I kept on I got good grades and I had feedback, right? Like you do something, you get an evaluation, you get a grade, I'd get an A or something like that. And I was a little lost without that. And so when I started running, I could have a time at the end of it. And then I could be better at other people than it, which I'm just a competitive person by nature. And so when I fumbled through before I ever met my coach. But when I ran a good like first half marathon, it just changed something about me. I just runner. I don't know, like as a 35-year-old, that's a weird place to be when you like discovered this thing that you love. I haven't had, I'm not like an Olympic trials qualifier or anything. I haven't had that success, but the first time I won a community 5K, like these are little things, but yeah, I found I was really, really proud of myself. And I had this new thing that I could do after being in school for 30 years. I had this like new thing that I could totally dive into.
Excellent. Thanks. And Jesse, how about yourself? I mean, did your success impact your relationship with the sport, and in what way?
Yeah, absolutely. When I started seeing like, results in competitive, how competitive I was actually kind of shocked because like I said, I was pretty garbage at all the other sports. So I really leaned into running, and like as I said before, it's just kind of evolved my relationship over the years from like, it was just like this short distance where it was just go as hard as you can for as long as you can. And then the distance side of it, where it became more controlled and measured. I mean, like it just every aspect has just evolved over my lifetime because I've been running for so long at this point. I mean, I started when I was 13 and I'm 39 now, and I really haven't taken much time off in that whole time. So it's just my relationship has just gone from, I mean, there's ups and downs, like sometimes you're like, man, I just don't want to run for a while. And you just take your time off and you can always come back to it like an old friend or something, and then you fall in love with it again and you just find new challenges that evolve. And then you just try to challenge yourself in a new way. So if marathoning gets old, you do ultra marathons, sprinting gets old, you do 800s, and then just whatever makes it exciting. I mean, keeps you passionate about it is what keeps me going in it. So
I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate you also saying that hey, if you need to take some time off, do, because those of us that aren't elite, sometimes we get hung up on, I can't miss a day, right? Or I've got an injury and I can't miss these. My life is over if I miss the run, over the weekend. And it's good to hear someone say, no, it's not.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Last year being the year that it was, I just took a lot of downtime, got on some trails and did some runs that I just enjoyed. And it wasn't so much about being competitive, just doing it when I could, but I did a lot less miles. And now it's kind of rejuvenated me and got me back going. And this year I haven't missed a day, and I'm just really excited again. So
excellent. No, thanks for sharing that. And Kelby, how about yourself? How did your success impact your relationship with the sport?
I think kind of going on with Jesse, like running has changed each stage that as I've grown up, and since I have been running so long, like each each time has meant different things. So like in high school, I mean, I ran because that's what you do in high school, you play sports. And so that's when my friends were doing it too. So that's kind of was my motivation then. And then as I got to my senior year of high school, I found myself getting really competitive at it. And I think at that stage it was, I did want to, like, I'm super competitive too, like Cassidy is. Like I wanted to be the best. Like I wanted to win my races, and I found that I was. And so I kind of was hooked on that and wanted to keep going. So then when I had the chance to run in college, going into college, I was just felt like I didn't have very much experience since I only had done a year of cross country my senior year. And so I thought everyone was going to be way faster than me, and I had no idea what to expect. And I was just super nervous about the whole thing, and especially just starting college in itself. But then my freshman year of college, I was top 2 on the team, and that just super motivated me to keep working really hard at it. And so it became more, again, of a competition with my teammates and other competitors and myself as well. And I think then as I got more confident throughout college, I just kept pushing harder and harder. And I found that after college, I didn't want that to end. And I'd always loved the longer distances, and I saw other people doing marathons, and I just thought it was so cool, and I wanted to try it out myself. And so that's kind of how then after college, I still remained competitive, and it was more of then beating myself and trying to keep push myself. And I'm just a very type A personality too. So whenever I do something, I just want to do my absolute best. And so I always push myself to my limit. And that's what I found through the marathon distance. And then also right now, well, the past couple of years, it's just a really good way to kind of escape everything else. And it's a good mental, what am I trying to say? Mental escape, I guess, just to escape the rest of life and have your own thoughts and time to yourself. So
No, I appreciate that. No, I know in my case, and we actually had a speaker come and talk about mental health and running and walking, and the importance of, especially right during this last year, the importance of whether you're running or walking or doing other things. And you're right, that was the one thing that could, for a lot of people, could remain normal and is that escape, and still is that escape. Different question, and Jesse, you alluded this a little bit in terms of, you said, hey, with COVID, right, you had to take some downtime, but do you guys ever lose motivation like we all do at some point? And how do you overcome those days or periods of time? So like those days or periods of time you say, I don't want to do this. Or do you have those periods of time like some of us do? Like, I don't want to do this today.
Absolutely, I do. I have those a lot. I battle motivation issues all the time. So, like I said, last year was it was really challenging to stay motivated, just because, there wasn't a lot of races or anything. So I feel like just changing it up helps a lot, doing something different. What helped me last year a lot, I got really into audiobooks, and I still do this. I listen to audiobooks when I run, and I've already done like 7 or 8 this year. It's pretty awesome. So that it's like kind of like motivation to get out there, because I'm like, oh, I want to know what happens, and I make myself so I don't like listen to it otherwise. So if I want to listen to it, I got to go run. So that gets me out the door. And then some other things, that changing environment. If you're used to running on the Monon a lot, sometimes I'll change it up, maybe go someplace different or hop on some trails or something like that. And I've done really well with if I really want to get going, I'll try to keep a streak. And I typically encourage people to take days off from time to time, and I'm not very good at keeping streaks. But if I can get a little momentum at first and like say, I'm going to run for the next 6 weeks without taking a day off, that'll get me in the habit of doing it. And then once I've kind of built up that pattern, and then it's not so bad, I can start taking a day off here and there. But if I can get the momentum going, that helps as well. But I definitely believe in resting. And like last year, like I said, I took a lot of downtime. So there is times when you just need to lay off, and then there's times when you need to push when you're really motivated. It's just kind of trying to figure out when those moments are and then capitalize on them one way or the other.
Thanks. Kelby, how about yourself? Do you ever have those days where like, I've lost motivation, I don't want to do this, and how do you overcome that?
Oh yeah, plenty of days. I have to say that I'm really bad at, even if I'm unmotivated, I still like, it's just, I'm so ingrained in. Did I pause for a second?
Yeah, you did for a second. Okay, we're back.
So I was just saying, like, even when I am unmotivated, it's such a habit for me that I'm going to do it no matter what. Like, I feel, because I know if I don't do it, I feel worse than if I did do it. And so I'm more of the case where I get in trouble, where I do too much and push too hard, and then can get hurt, and then that I'm forced to not run, which is not good. So I want to promote that. But, yeah, for me, it's it's really just a habit. And I do have those days. I do listen to podcasts too. So I do the same thing as Jesse. I listen to a lot of running podcasts, and that just kind of keeps me going too. But
I appreciate you explain it as a habit. I'm Matt Ebersol, which most of the people on here know. I've worked with him for a couple of years too. And I remember one time a year or two ago, I said, Matt, I've lost my mojo. And he said, to heck with your mojo, just get out there and run. He said, you just got to get that habit. So that's what it reminded me of, Kelby, when you said it becomes, and there are a lot of things, right? I've read up on a lot of this. It's a different topic, different day, but there are a lot of things we do that are habit, right? So I'm glad you shared that. How about yourself, Cassie? Do you ever lose your mojo?
So I tend to swing in the other direction, and I just, I can't stop running. I'm hyper compliant with running. And maybe it's because it's newer to me. But like coach will put mileage limits on me sometimes. I just always want to run. And, Kelby mentioned, I am also very frequently injured. And I'm sure those two are intimately related, but I think the fact that I have to take breaks due to random injuries makes me even like more like overzealous when I get back into it. So I guess my body limits my ability to get unmotivated. By the time I would be peaking, or, like starting to get bored or starting to get fatigued, some weird thing would pop up. So yeah, I lack motivation in other things. I will certainly like not do my taxes for, another 3 weeks, but I will hit every run between now and then, without thinking twice about it. So my issue is that I have to chill out a little bit.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
I'll say something real quick.
Sure.
I don't get injured very often. I think it is because I'm always looking for an excuse to take a day off. So I'm not super type A. So like, if I need to take a day off, I'm like, all right, I'm taking the day off. And I think that's actually helped me in some ways. In some ways it probably hurts a little bit, but in some ways it's like, if I start to feel something, I just back down. I'm like, no, I'm gonna take 2 days off. I have no problem with it.
That's awesome.
Jim, can I jump in just for a
Sure,
second?
yeah, if you guys got questions, go ahead.
Can I ask just real briefly, so at peak training for a long distance thing, what's your weekly mileage?
Cassidy?
Yeah, I'll start. So I've hit higher mileage this year than I ever have before. So like my higher weeks, I hit, 70, 72-ish, but then I go to work for a week and then it's more like 50. So I'm probably averaging around 60 for this. But I don't think I've never gotten over like 74. And I wasn't even tired then. I just I knew I had to not do something more. I'd love to have higher mileage weeks. I want to know what I can do with a higher volume. And this is that's why I like this training cycle for me. It's more than I've ever been able to do. But it's also nothing compared to what some people do. I'd love to hear Kelby and Jesse on this one.
Thank you. Kelby, how about yourself?
I would say before baby, when I was like preparing for like the Grandma's Marathon, which is where I got my OTQ, I was doing between 80 and 90 miles. And then right now, post baby, and I think probably this will be just how I go about doing it from now on, since I have less time, since I do have a kid. It'll be more of, right now, I think I'm doing like 65, 60, 65. So not near as much. And I think I'm excited to see how that will affect how my race turns out. And because I think it will actually be beneficial with more rested legs. When those hard workouts do come around, I can put forth a better effort and do a lot better on those than I would if I had been running more. So I'm excited about it.
Excellent. Thank you. And Jesse, training at peak.
Yeah, that's been an evolving thing over the years as well. Like when I first started with Matt, I'd do a lot of mileage, like 120-ish on average. And then but the funny thing is, I mean, I was kind of newer at that point, and I started like finding that 90 to 100 is more of a sweet spot, at least I think, because for me, because my PR was some of my fastest times were more around 90 to 100. And then I'm getting ready to do Carmel coming up, and it kind of snuck up on me. So I did 86 last week, and that might be my peak for that. But this will be an interesting race, considering I won't get it like too many high mileage weeks. So, but sometimes you just got to roll with what you got.
Thanks for sharing that. Those are some serious miles for some of us. That
Yeah.
would be some serious miles.
I will preface with 120 to 130 mile weeks with those were before I had a GPS watch. So those are kind of like me guessing what I ran. So I don't know. It could have been a little less.
I appreciate that. I don't want to keep you guys much longer. I appreciate this has been awesome. I do have a question to throw out. What about if any of you guys would you mind sharing maybe any stories that I know Trina had shared with me. Kelby, maybe you had a story about the first time you were running Boston and watching some of the people that you idolize warm up. Do any of you three have stories like that where you've found yourself surrounded by other athletes that are as good or better than you are, and just your thoughts around that, if you have one?
Well, I can explain my story.
Sure.
So I guess, the Boston Marathon, I went, and it was more going to be a fun race, like the whole experience for me, because I had just done Carmel like 3 weeks before then. So I knew I wasn't going to have it. Like my goal going to that race was not to have like a PR or anything. It was more of, just fangirling out on all the other elite women runners and watching them. And it was just so cool to see them in person, because they look so much different than when you're watching them on TV. So it was just a really cool experience overall. And no, I did not feel like I belonged there at all. I was like, I don't know how I even got there. So it was amazing to see them and watch their warm-up routine, and just see how they go about, like they're just like us. They get nervous before races, they have a race routine, they get warmed up, like they're just like anybody else. So it was just really cool to see and observe that. And then during the Olympic trials, that was the best experience I've ever had in running wise, just because all the top marathoners in the world are gathering in one spot, and everyone that you hear about is there. And a lot of them, I feel like, hide out a little bit, like I saw Des, like the coolest thing was I saw Des Linden, like we our meeting spot before the race was in this tent, and we were all supposed to be in the same area. And Des Linden was like on the other side of the tent, like all by herself. And you could tell everyone was like kind of staring away from her because no one wants to bug her, obviously. She's not going to talk to anyone before the race, but it was just so cool. Like everyone's like sneaking glances over at her, and it was just really fun. So
those are great stories. Thanks for sharing.
yeah.
Jesse, you must have seen some fun things.
Oh yeah. I was going to say, I've been very good at getting in rooms or in places I probably didn't belong in, but with some pretty fast athletes. I was trying to like think of, I'm trying to think of some fun ones, but I guess the first time I ran Boston, if you're an elite athlete, you're in the elite field or whatever, they put you up. I know, I don't know how it is. I've only ran it once and I was in the elite field. They put you up in this church right next to the starting line. So you get to hang out there, and I think otherwise you're in like some school or something. I'm not for sure, but so we're in this church with all the athletes, and I find this room upstairs. And when I got up there, I saw Ryan Hall and Sarah Hall just like listening to the same earphones, like one with one, and and then one and the other listening to the same thing. It was kind of one of those things, like couple things. And then like Meb Keflezighi came in or whatever, and Ryan Hall's like, Meb, what jersey you wearing? And then like Meb's like, USA, like always. And he's like, he got into his bag and he pulled out a USA jersey and he's like, me too. And I was like, and I started laughing. I was like, these guys are kind of dorky like I am. So, so like I'm in good company, even if they're a little bit faster. I got another Meb story too, but I don't know. It's pseudo kind of questionable. I don't know. It involves a bowel movement. Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
So at my first Olympic trials, I decided to do like kind of a noob thing and take the course tour or whatever. And like all the guys like me were on it, but Meb got on the bus too. And he was like by far like the best runner on there. And he ended up winning those trials. And then, so Ryan Hall won. I think he got second, but this is in 2012 in Houston. And he sat down in the seat right in front of me. It's just the school bus. And I was talking to Jackie Dicos, who is a local athlete here. So she also qualified. We were sitting next to her chatting and we're like, oh, it's Meb right there. And then like all of a sudden we just smelled something awful. And it was like, definitely Meb just farted really bad and just stunk the bus up. And we're just kind of like, oh my gosh. So we thought that was kind of hilarious, but every time I met Meb, he is a great guy though. He is super friendly and nice. And most all those guys are super friendly and nice. They're just runners too. And they enjoy talking about running and they've been super friendly. And I've been fortunate to be around them in several different races and I never really had a bad experience. So.
Thanks, Jesse, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well,
I was in the Athlete or American Development program in Chicago in 2019. I was in a terrible state of disrepair, which is my fault. I didn't even tell my coach I wasn't well, but I was in a tent, and just when you line up, you get to kind of run circles, and I saw like Steph Bruce and all these. I was fangirling like Kelby was saying, but I did in fact pass Jordan Hesse. She didn't make it through the whole race, obviously, but I remember running and being like, wow, that's Jordan Hesse. And at the time she was really favorited to just blow it out of the water in 2019. And I thought, well, she's not having a good day. And, I'm like stuffing ibuprofen in my mouth at the time, like, well, at least I made it farther than professional athlete Jordan Hesse today.
Well, I appreciate all you guys sharing those stories. And yeah, it sounds like a theme, right? Is they're normal, right? Goofy, normal, silly, having fun, just like, the rest of us. And sometimes we lose sight of that. I know the first time I went and saw elite runners run. I was helping out in Chicago years ago with the American Cancer Society, and I'd never seen elite runners go by. And as they went by, and I just started running a year or two before that, I started tearing up, like for some reason. I'm like, okay, what? That's weird. Like I don't tear up very often, and what's this? But it was just something magical about, seeing them all go by. Even though I didn't even know who they were at the time, I just knew they were, who they were. Now those names you guys toss around, I know, but I didn't know those names at the time.
Well, yeah, anytime you think you see people that are on the pinnacle of their sport, it's pretty amazing. That's why I love the Olympics, and I'll watch just about anything Olympics. Just enjoy seeing people at their best, doing their thing. So.
Well, I appreciate all of you joining us tonight. Gosh, this was great. We could talk forever and ever, but we all have other things I know we'd like to go off to do, especially you guys. So again, thanks for participating. We're grateful that we have you as elite runners that are, near and dear to the club and near to this area, and we'll continue to support you and cheer you guys on. I know, Kelby, I know you and Jesse both said Carmel you have coming up. How about Cassidy? Do you have a race coming up? Are you Carmel as well?
Carmel full marathon, yeah.
Okay, great. So we will look for you in Carmel. Looks like that is still a go, so that's exciting. But I just appreciate everybody joining tonight. Unless there's any last questions from the audience, I will let everyone go.
Can I stick another one in there? Or Kathy, do you want to go?
No, I was just gonna thank them. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
And Cassidy, I'll give you a hug.
I know.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
So, as a, slightly better than mid-pack runner, I show up at a race and I go and run a race. When you guys go to a race, you go to the starting line and the people who are going to be running your pace, people that you're competing with. Some of them are your friends, some of them are your competitors, obviously. So there's first, of course, like you were talking about with Desi Linden, this is her beginning of the race. She's over there. She is zoned in the zone. She's avoiding all of those folks. Then you get on the course, and now there's like a psychology thing going on. And you see some of the strategy play out when you watch some of the major marathons on television about when people throw in a surge and all that stuff. And so could each of you describe just a little bit about what that psychology is like, and maybe some days for you, that you should run your race, but some days maybe you go, no, right now, this is the thing to do. And I'm going to, whatever. So can you describe some of what that's like? And
Yeah,
let's start with Jesse.
Yeah, I can start. I feel like every race I've ever done has been so unique and different, and the goals are different with the race. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I show up and the goal is just to win the race, and so and I don't know most of the time who's going to be there. So there's been a lot of times I'm just standing around looking to see if anybody is going to be able to run with me, and I'll look, and then I'll see somebody like he looks kind of fast, like maybe he can get me or whatever. So it's like looking around and eyeballing them, looking at their shoes, and like if a guy looks fast and he's just wearing like a pair of regular trainers and not racing flats, I'll be like, okay, I got him. Or something like that. And then but sometimes you're going out and you want to work with people and you're running for a time, and those are actually sometimes some of the most enjoyable races, because it feels like you're on a team and you're just working together and you're all trying to achieve the same goal. And those are really fun, and you chat and you help each other out. If someone missed their water, they'll grab you water. And so those are some of the most fun compared to like the ones, and it's fun to win a race, but sometimes when you're working with somebody else to just do the best you can and run faster than you ever ran, those are probably some of the more memorable ones.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Jesse. I've had each race is very different, but I remember running the Grandma's Marathon where I had the OTQ, and a lot of women are also trying to get an OTQ at that specific race because it's known to be fast. And so I had a really great experience there because there was a pack of us all trying to get under that 2:45 mark, and we were all, you know, right on the edge of whether we would get it or not. And so there was a group of like 5 or 6 of us that just worked together throughout the race, and we would switch up who was in front and who was in back, just to keep pushing each other and block the wind for each other. And so it's just a really good, really fun experience, and to get to know other women runners who are, you know, at the same spot and training as you are. And so it was fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cassidy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't go to races expecting to win probably as much as maybe Kelby and Jesse. But I definitely can relate to Jesse's, you know, when you size people up, what they're wearing, you know, like, do they look like they'll be a fast runner? And I'll get nervous and jittery. But ultimately, like, I don't care if I run that distance fast and according to my plan, I don't care where I place, like, at all. I think maybe if I were faster, then racing would be fun, and I could appreciate the strategy that goes into throwing down surges. And I definitely run better from behind than I do from in front, like significantly different. So I'd almost rather not be winning at any given time in a race. I slow way down when I don't have anybody in front of me. So I kind of like to not be like to think that I'm going to be the best there. But I also don't really chase people down. I don't know. I'm so in my own mind. I don't even notice photographers. I'm famous for having terrible race photos. I just don't, it's like the world doesn't exist around me. So having other people there is maybe like a thing at the start line, but during the race, I'm just sort of oblivious to it. But maybe there's a body that just pulling me along a little bit. But boy, it would be pretty fun to win though. I gotta say, if that was on the table to like win the Carmel Marathon, like I think both of these two have, like, yeah, I would probably like that. Now that I think about it,
You're gonna be
time I could throw away. It would be really cool. I've never broken tape. I've won little races, but I've never actually broken tape, and that looks really cool.
Yeah, that actually is kind of fun.
Right? And I just need to master the snot out of the one nostril, like Jesse always has it.
Oh my gosh, I've got so many pictures like that.
I know.
How does that always happen?
You have a lot of finish lines to practice on, Jesse.
I got a race tip if you want it, Jeff.
What's that? Say it again.
I got a race day tip. Do you ever?
Oh, yes.
Do you ever like? There's like I'm always like pretty nervous before the race, but I always get over it because I tell myself once I get going that the nerves are going to be gone, and that always does it. That keeps me calm because I don't think I think it maybe like 1 or 2 races that I've ever been nervous once the running actually started. So pre-race jitters are normal, but once you get going, you're just running and the nerves go away. So
Cassidy,
that's my pro tip.
Cassidy and Kelby, would you any tips like that, or would you agree with that? I mean, you've experienced the same thing.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I definitely get nervous before a race, but yeah, once I feel a lot better once I get going because I don't know, all you can do then is run.
Yeah, and I just zone out. I'm mentally shut down after the gun goes off. So, but yeah, I definitely get nervous before. I get more like excited though. I'm like an excited type of nervous person. I'll hug people at the start line. I'm obnoxious. Like race day is fun for me. I love it. Like, so yeah, I get nervous, but it just comes out in weird ways.
Well, the Carmel race day ought to be really fun in terms of looking forward to it, right? Because so many people haven't had a chance to race. That will be awesome to you know, a reappreciation for what we haven't had to, you know, what we've missed out on, at least some of us, for a while. All right, anything else? I've kept you guys way long. Jeff will pay you later for your overtime, but anything else at all?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Thank you guys. I will get
Thank
this
you.
recording up so the rest can see it, but thank you all.
Awesome.
And good
Good
luck in
night.
Carmel.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Everybody.
sure.
Good night.
Hey, Kevin.
Seminar.